Hi, I'm Robert David Hall, and I'm sitting here with Danny Woodburn, who is the recipient of the 2010 Harold Russell Award. And Harold Russell was a great actor who won 2 Oscars for the 1946 film Best Years of Our Lives. And Danny, nice to be with you again.
Thanks, Dave.
We're going to find out a little bit about you here. Why don't we start from the beginning? How did you get into acting? How did you join SAG?
I got into acting, for the longest time I wanted to be a vet. And then I was going to get into medical school, and I got accepted to pre-med, and I think my mom kept that acceptance from the college up on the refrigerator for 3 months, but she blacks it out now for some reason. She doesn't recall that event. But I ended up having a lot of surgery in the early mid-'80s, and had a lot of time to think about what I really wanted to do.
Surgery relating?
Related to my legs.
Okay.
I had a lot of corrective surgery on my hips, knees, and ankles. So it's like a 30,000-mile major tune-up kind of a thing. And I had had a history of orthopedic surgeries prior to that. But I had a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do, and you know, I felt like I was a performer at heart, and I always wanted to do stand-up comedy, and I wanted to get into film. So I applied to Temple University and School of Communications and Theater, and became a theater and film major there, and started doing live stage. And
Temple is in Philadelphia?
Temple University in Philadelphia, yeah. And I did a couple of regional productions, and I did 2 shows in New York, and then I moved to Los Angeles. And
what was the first show you ever did, and what was your role?
First was a Mamet play, a little-known David Mamet play called Revenge of the Space Pandas, and it was children's theater, and it was in association with the school. We had a class called Children's Theater, and what we did is we acted in, produced, and toured a children's theater production of this play, Revenge of the Space Pandas. We went all over the city. We did every day we had a class, we did a show for one of the elementary schools in Philadelphia. So we probably did about 20 shows over the course of that semester. And I played Bob the sheep. And I still had the costume.
Did you have lines like, bah?
No, I was sort of I guess I was the comedic relief and the hero, and it was me and my owner. I don't know why this, young kid had a sheep as a pet, but he did.
We won't go into
No, we won't get into that. That's Mamet's world, and we'll leave it at that.
Children's theater,
yeah,
right.
Exactly. That never gets revealed. But I remember once, just before the show, I got my first experience about, with the phrase "the show must go on," because I was coming down the stairs from the dressing room just before we would go out, and this was the university's downtown theater, because we did 2 weeks at the university's downtown theater, and then we did touring after that. And I fell down the steps, and I thought I broke my ankle. And they came back, and the audience was, the house was full, and they're like, "Do you want to go on?" And it was very painful, but I thought, the show must go on, so I should, we'll figure it out while we're out there. And I recall there's like chase scenes and things like that. So we just decided anytime I had to move, the other lead, his name was Eric Rowland, he would just grab me and run with me wherever I had to be. So, and there's a scene where I get chased and I run into the kids and, hide with the kids. And in that scene, Eric grabs me, runs into the audience, and hands me to the kids, and they all piled up on me. We could always tell how good the show was going that day, because if the show was going well, the kids kept me hidden. If it wasn't going well, they gave me up.
What was it like growing up as a little person? Were you mainstream? Did you go to special school? What was the deal?
No, I was totally mainstream. My mom was not, doctors would always say things to my mom, oh, she should be institutionalized or that kind of thing. Not necessarily about me, but that was the kind of thing that was said growing up. I went to regular public school, I toughed it out like everybody else. I did as much as I could physically. I still went to gym class, and if I could see footage of me in gym class, I'd just be like, no, don't do that, don't do that. You're going to need them when you're in your 40s, that kind of thing. But I had, you know, I I think it tried to ingratiate myself with the kids by being a performer. I remember first grade, me and this other kid, his name was Roy, and Roy would chase me around the room before the teacher showed up. And I would run and go under the desks and throw chairs in front of him. And it was almost like a Keystone Cops kind of thing that I knew I was in on. I didn't know if he was in on it because he kept falling over the chairs. But invariably, because of those little performances, I stayed after school a lot in first grade.
That's great. So I assume you're in your late teens, early 20s at Temple when you
Early
were
20s, right? 'Cause
20s.
after the surgery, overall, I think I started school when I was 20, 19 or 20, yeah.
So you're doing college productions, you're doing children's theater. What was the jump from amateur
To
thespian to
professional.
professional?
Well, while at school, a group of us got together to perform, put together an improv troupe. And we toured and did some stuff in Philly. We opened for Emo Phillips, a comic, and we opened for Ridge Hall at colleges, and we did...
Sniglets.
Yeah, exactly. We were called Loose Change, which is such an 80s name for an improv troupe. And we did a bunch of performances, and we made a few bucks, you know. But I really felt my first professional foray into show business on my own was I auditioned in New York for a small, like off-Broadway production called The Soda Jerk, and it was in Lower Manhattan at some small theater and art gallery combo. And I got the role, and I got paid $125, I think, stipend for a 2-week run of this show.
So, well, New York, this is impressive.
Oh,
So,
I would spend my days just walking the city, thinking, you know, this is where I want to be, you know. And I would walk all over the city, and I went to the Improv in the day to look at that because I wanted to do stand-up comedy as well. And then we would go do our show, which opened at 11 o'clock at night, and I'd get done, you know, maybe 10:30, and then I'd get done by 12:30. Then we'd go have chili at the place down the street from the theater, and then I'd get on the train for Brooklyn at like 1 in the morning with my bag on my shoulder, and it was just me.
you were living in Brooklyn?
I was just staying there during the run of the show, and but you know, took the train back after our night's performances, so it was pretty late, and I figured I'm taking the subway. I have to figure out how not to be killed. So it was
Always
just,
good in New York,
I
yeah.
just basically cursed out all of the columns that were in the subway. I was like, "What's your problem?" Like scream and yell, and just looked like a nut job, and everybody stayed away from it.
All during this time, were you ever thinking that you could make a living as a professional actor?
I just assumed that that's what would happen. I never thought, I got no chance. I never thought that.
Thank God for ignorance.
Exactly. Thank God I had no idea how tough it was going to be. And I'm grateful that through a lot of my career I've been lucky to begin with for never getting rolled on the subway in New York when I was doing the Soda Jerk, and just for, you know, being in the right spot at the right time a lot of times.
Did you join Screen Actors Guild back east or
No,
out
I
here?
joined out here. I moved here at the end of '89, and I got my first guild job was guest star spot on an episode of Hunter.
Wow.
And it was like, I thought, I'm guest star, you know, and I show up and I have my own trailer and my name is on the trailer, and I took pictures of all that. I was, you know,
That's pretty
and I was
good.
like, I didn't even know the trailers got bigger after this, you know, they can even get bigger than that. I was just excited to have my name somewhere.
Well, I would think so.
Yeah.
I think my first role was there was a show called Aftermash, which was
I remember
oddly
that,
enough,
yeah.
Aftermash.
Right.
And I was one of the Korean War hospital veterans, and my line was, "The food stinks in here." That was the great acting role. Very good, Hunter. And was that Fred Dreyer?
Yeah, it was Fred Dreyer show. I didn't work with Fred, but I worked the director of that episode, and this was like when I thought I'm really in Hollywood, because the director of that episode his name was Gus Traconis, and he and his sister, who I did the wardrobe on that episode, were both dancers in the movie West Side Story.
Oh, my.
And I was like, wow, this is
Isn't
just,
the connection great? I
yeah.
love, now that I'm becoming an older actor, I love talking with anybody in our guild and finding out what they've done, because you scratch an actor and you can find some amazing stories.
Yeah, and I think based on Gus's look and his last name, I'm going to assume he was a shark and not a jet. But I thought that's just so cool to me. And I had a lot of little things like that happen. Like one of my next jobs, I think might have even been my third job, was like a one-day, but a nice meaty spot on Murder, She Wrote. And, well, this was actually it was an extra role before I got a meteor spot later. But the extra role was I was this mechanical toy, but I spent as like a gunslinger, and I had to do this sort of robotic motions as a toy. And I spent the day wearing Western pants from Western Costume, and the label inside said Bob Hope, son of Paleface. So I'd spent the day in Bob Hope's pants, and unfortunately he didn't live to have me tell him that.
That's right.